SEO this week. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode. This week, going heavy into the AI mode from Google. Some questions, some tools, and more. Let's get going.
Did you know a press release alone isn't enough? Visibility is key. You need a multi-platform strategy to share your story across news, audio, video, and social media. Welcome to Magic PR, where your press release transforms into a powerful media experience, maximizing exposure and engagement. We distribute your release to top outlets like Yahoo Finance, Bloomberg, Business Insider, and more. Plus, your release is SEO optimized, ensuring better search rankings. But we don't stop there. We turn your press release into a podcast, distributing it across 25 platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and SoundCloud. Then, we create a social media content for Facebook, X, and Instagram, and even transform your story into a video press release for YouTube and top media sites. Video drives over 80% of higher engagement, and short-form content is king. We make viral videos for your YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, and more. At Magic PR, we don't just publish, we amplify. Get your press release seen, heard, and shared everywhere. Visit magicpr.com today and take your brand to the next level. Back to you, Clint.
All right, so our first post is Meet AI Mode. Is from Dixon Jones over at InLinks. He is also part of what the hell is that other software he's got? Wikobi or whatever the hell it's called. AI. It's an AI visibility tool. We showed it last week. We showed it last time. I actually got some credits from Dixon. If you want to try it out, you can find him on LinkedIn. Go to his LinkedIn post, and then he's offering some free credits to do a couple searches. So check that out. Anyway, he's got this ways to win AI mode approaches to doing business with AI mode, mainly wrapped around the use of this tool, which I think is actually really interesting. I want to play with it some more. I need to use the free credits that I got to get a couple reports to know a little bit more about what it's saying that I need to do. But it's so far it's pretty interesting. But you can go through this post and just kind of get some ideas about it. And it's just his idea of how you should approach SEO in regards to AI and having AI understand more about what you got going on. So I think it's pretty good. It's always good to hear his insights. Is it necessarily what AI mode is using? Maybe not. We'll dig into that a little bit more as we go through this series of stories this week that are mainly about AI mode. One thing that's not about AI mode is how to use or using LLMs on your own computer. I will say that I have LM Studio, but there are a lot of limitations in regards to home computers and the size of these models. Like, you can put a lot of these models on your computer and you can run them. But depending on your system, it's going to take forever, and it's just easier to go direct to the web or the cloud services that are hosting these things versus running them on your computer. But it can be done, and you can use LM Studio to do that. Here's an integration with LM Studio and SEO Content Machine. If you use that tool, check it out. Just be careful. Again, like I said, you can run a lot of models on your computers. I have a Mac Studio, and it runs models fairly well unless I get greedy and try to use a stupid large model, and it even slows down my Mac Studio. So be careful about it. Go for the smaller models. Don't think you're going to get like ChatGPT results and open these up and get your, this is LLaMA 4, for example. You have to do a little bit more and play around with prompts a little bit more when you're running these things on your own computer versus having system prompts, etc. But if you ever wanted to try it out, this is a good instruction base to do it. And LM Studio is actually a pretty cool tool once you start playing with it. This is the AI mode patent. Essentially, Mike got it and then just broke down the meaning of these graphs for you. The biggest thing is generating initial or synthetic queries. We're going to see this idea a lot more in some of these other stories. The short version is, if you are using You've kind of already experienced this if you're using People Also Ask in your work, in your writing articles or stories for People Also Ask. It's kind of not unlike that, right? So essentially, we'll go through the process here in a bit, but essentially you're breaking down the top point of the query. Like, where does it start at? Let me see if there's a shorter version. It's getting the query, and then it's breaking down the query and giving you some output and then some other ideas in regards to where you can go and continue your search. That's the easiest way to put this. And then it's, rinse, repeat, sending you down through that whole rabbit hole. That's all this is, just so you can see essentially the poor man's version, or the, or, as I say, to translate the super nerd. Essentially, that's what he's done here. That's all that is. So you have that for your information base when you're thinking about all this other stuff that I'm getting ready to show you. One of those is the top ways to ensure your content performs well. This is from Google. Page experience, access, more visibility, structured data is really what I wanted to bring out here. Structured data is useful for sharing your content in a machine readable way that our systems consider. What I like it in here, or I find interesting, is that our systems consider versus that our systems may consider. They are actually counting or using structured data. So sharing information about your content in the machine readable way is really the basis of schema. A lot of SEOs, as a matter of fact, most SEOs are really worried about this: certain search features and rich snippets. That's all they're doing. But when I write my schema, I want to share information about my content in a machine readable way. And so that's how I approach schema. And you can see an example of that. And we can do this. Mastering Breadcrumb schema. This is a post I wrote today. I'll share the link. Or not today. I think I wrote this a couple days ago. But you see the basic hierarchy of schema as applied here, and then some more information about it. What I am looking for from you guys is I want to put some templated examples of this here that are beyond this. This is the basics. This is what all your plugins do. This is what Google tells you to do. It's the basics of it, and it's good. Honestly, it is. You have books in that subcat in the category of books. You have science fiction books, and then in the category of science fiction books, you have award winners. That is perfectly acceptable breadcrumb schema, and it outlines the hierarchy of the pages. Remember that, because it'll come in handy when we get into questions, SEO questions. But this could be written out a whole lot more. Like, I could say a whole lot more about the pages if I wanted to in breadcrumb schema. And so if you're interested in some more templates and stuff, I'm going to give you the link. This will be in the descriptions. Come into the comments and just tell me, like, I want more examples, or can you provide some examples for e-commerce? Can you provide some examples for information website, that kind of thing? Write it in the comments of the blog posts so that I know which ones to create, because I can run a whole bunch of them in my imagination, but if you guys don't want them and don't need them, then it's kind of pointless for me to do it. So I'm going to do it that way. Go to the post, write in your comments what kind of template you want, or a variation that you would like to see. And then I'll do probably like 3 or 4 different versions of breadcrumb schema for different asks. So you can see just kind of how you can expand the use of breadcrumb schema out even beyond what the tools are asking you to do. Okay. Where were we? So there's that. Beyond information intelligence, this is more understanding AI overviews. And what I wanted to point out in here was, where the hell were we at? AI mode. Yeah, this is just the launch of AI mode. This one. That's the wrong one. But they're just announcing AI mode and kind of where they want to go with it, and some of the features in there, like deep search mode and all that. Those are all cool features that we can leverage if we're smart about it. Okay, so that's kind of why I wanted you to see this one. AI modes, query fan out. This is, again, query fan out. The query fan out. That's what you need to be thinking about in regards to optimizing for this stuff. And here's here's a better idea. So you do a general product. Find the best Bluetooth headphones, and then entity based, list the best top rated, and then more comfortable, and then longest battery life, right? So these are all things that you could actually be writing content for to address these query fan outs that started with find me the best Bluetooth headphones. These are all content ideas that you could put into your piece or create separate pieces for when you're creating your subtopics or your silos for your e-commerce store, for example. And it'll go and give you that based off of the query fan out. It'll just keep building it and toppling it over and over again. What I like mainly is that they're getting better links to websites in here, and I think AI mode is actually a whole lot better than AI overviews. So query fan out, query fan out, query fan out. So let's do a little bit of query fan out. Let's go looking for the best paddle boards. So that's best paddle boards is probably our primary key term, right? And then you get a couple of paddle boards, some blog posts that do best paddle boards. And this isn't to say go write a whole bunch of best paddleboard blog posts, because clearly there's going to be a lot, but you could, right? So the 25, 24, 25, 25, 23, 24. So there is an argument to be said that you could add some new content in there. So you get some different brands, right? So you can do some ideas on brands, touring, SUPs, longer distance, and paddle flowing. So you can do touring I can do a whole thing on best of touring SUPs. I can do surf SUPs, notables. Consider factors to consider when choosing a paddleboard. That's a good post. Where to buy paddleboards, right? That's pretty good. So it really, you see what it did? It fanned those out. So you have some opportunities to get into a little bit of these and ideas for content generation, et cetera, if you're doing the best paddle boards. So, and you can create one single piece of content just with this information, or you could create multiple pieces and build a whole topical silo. All in regards with that. So I like it a lot. I think it's pretty good, especially if you're doing some market research or whatever, right? So let's go. Let's see where does this click? Paddle boards. Dick's paddle boards. Yeah, see, this is still kind of busted. Where to buy, and then it gives you some sources of where to buy, which is not too bad, but kind of duplicate. Let's give you here. This is factors to consider. All these sites are talking about factors. It's actually not too many of them. Surf, sup. Stand-up paddleboards. SUPs, stand-up paddleboards. For surf, experienced riders and measurable waves. Interesting. Paddleboard for beginners. That's pretty, see, there's a lot of opportunities here if you're in this market to write some different interesting content for potential exposure in here, using search and using a tool like Wake to kind of find some gaps between you and your competition. Combine those with this and you'd be pretty good, I think. Let's do, let's see. What would be one that I do? How to implement breadcrumb schema. Choosing the right format, understanding structure, generating markup, adding markup to the web pages, test and validate, and then providing an example, which is essentially everything that I did in here. Now, I didn't follow that. I didn't do this, what I just did to get that, but that's kind of how I wrote that. And so, again, this is almost giving you a decent content outline. And you could probably take this and write content using just this and expand on the individual sections if you want to become, with increased potential, end up inside of these lists here on the sidebar for your SEO stuff. So pretty cool. I'm not mad at this at all. I actually like this better than the AI overviews. More clarification on these, but basically the AIO counts as one position. So regardless if you're in there one time or 10 times, it's one position. So it's going to be position number one in the AI overviews inside of Search Console. There isn't anything yet on inside of Search Console for AI mode. Hopefully that'll be coming soon. You can get much greater perspective on what's going on in the Google side of it. Generative AI and search. What I really wanted to point out here is we see that links included in AI overviews get more clicks than the page had if it appeared in traditional listing for that query. What they didn't talk about is, like, if they were on page one in the top three, were they going to get more clicks if they showed up in the AI overview versus if they were at the bottom of page 10 and then they get into AI overview, or now they're getting more clicks, which would be like, duh, right? But so far, all the data suggests that that is absolutely not true. If AI, especially in regards to being trackable, i.e. looking at your analytics and you're looking at your refers, can people definitively say they're getting more clicks with AI overviews now than when they were just ranking? And based off on all the traffic numbers that we've seen from multiple different sources of their individual websites, that is not the case. So it's interesting to see how that will continue to affect publishers, especially in the information space versus the AI mode, which I think will legitimately result in more clicks and traffic to visitors. If anything, it'll be more likely to convert visitors, especially in our paddleboard example. Like, I could potentially get a click from here. Unfortunately, Google's doing that. Like, this is the one that I want, right? And then it's giving me different versions, and then I track price and it's giving me different sources to get it, typically is what they're going to do. Here, luckily, this one business is getting the benefit of this versus what I see more often than not, where there's multiple businesses in here. But Surf Tech, YouTube, Surf Tech. So they're doing okay. They're getting better. And then you get more options in here. So for e-commerce, I think this is going to be golden, especially if they have the merchant center set up and good imagery, etc. I think this is going to be a win for e-commerce. Don't need that. Keep that. Talked about that. Ads in AI overviews, especially for e-commerce. Again, e-commerce is kind of where they're going to go all in on this because it's the easiest, in my opinion, to do that, especially with them activating Merchant Center for everybody. So if you have an e-commerce site, you can turn on Merchant Center. If you're selling products, not if you're doing services, unfortunately, but if you're doing products, you can use the Merchant Center feed. And so you should get that set up as soon as possible, because as you saw in the AI mode, you're going to get a lot of exposure. And then now you're going to have ad opportunities inside of AI overviews, which is really where you want to be, because they're doing their informational research here. Now they're ready to make a buying decision. You could put yourself in front of them before the organic stuff. MarTech B2B content is failing, and this one is interesting. It's if you're having some issues getting B2B reach inside of your social media, which is where this is primarily focused on, you can use user-generated content and user-generated content ideas from your audience already, and start by asking what do they want, make it easy for them to tell you what they want, and then incentivize presentation, and then engage with them a whole lot more. This is easier if you own your own platform, Discord server, etc. But if you're just a small business folk and you're doing this like when you have time, this is pretty easy. Like, create a Facebook post asking, hey, what more information do you want about plumbing or whatever, right? And those followers, and then you'll get some ideas, and you can build out your schedule. You can do that once a month if you get a lot of them, or once a week if you don't get a lot of interaction, and keep building that over and over and over again, and it'll help you out a lot. This is the AI mode optimization. It's a fan out method Python idea, and that's the only reason I'm sharing it, because it's an idea, and how essentially what we did manually, you're going to use Python and analyze your website and see if you have if the AI mode is going to show your site more likely because you are more topically related. So we did this one, and we have the best paddle boards, and we have the stand-up paddle boards, and touring versus surf versus, and then factors to consider. It'll say, well, does your site address it, or it's trying to? So this is pretty interesting. I'm only sharing it because it's a Python thing. You can come in here and check it out, and then run the analysis and see if Claude is agreeing with the content fetching, the graphs and analysis, and the structure, content depth analysis, etc. You can see all that inside of this. So I like Python stuff, so that's why I'm sharing this with you. So there's your tool of the week. Tool. Just a heads up. This has always been a thing, but I guess right now it's becoming even more of a thing, especially people who have LSA ads. People are going in and misnaming their LSA ad, like their competition, and changing the names on their GBPs and using misspellings, which are, frankly, it's less likely that you're going to catch it. So from bright to bite, or from bright to right, and changing the spellings. I would notice this pretty quickly, but I would probably be less likely to notice that, and that'll hurt your. It's a big issue with your LSAs and your GPPs. So keep an eye on that. Be more diligent. Competition can be dickheads sometimes, so just watch as it goes and make sure it's not happening to you. Put it on your checklist of things to look for every day. AI search is not the same as AI search. So this is a perspective, just really of OpenAI, and more specifically Sam Altman, and he's in regards to the two levels of competition that OpenAI has. One is the chatbots, the Gemini, Copilot, Meta, etc., versus AI in regards to search. And really they just consider, what's it called? Starts with a P. I'm scanning. I know it's in here. Perplexity. Google is their competition in regards for AI for search versus AI for chatting. So there's two distinct markets for them. Oh, there it is right here. And you can see they're kicking Perplexity's butt, but there's still a competition. And then you have AI overviews, which has more likelihood. So just when you're hearing this now, you can just kind of understand the approaches and what if they're talking about Claude versus Copilot or OpenAI versus Gemini, or how our models are better versus Meta. They're talking about the chatbot space versus AI in regards to search. So if they're saying OpenAI versus Perplexity, now you know that there's Perplexity is probably taking a big bite. More than likely, it's going to be OpenAI versus AI overviews will be the that part of the competition. I think all of their money is going to be on the chatbot space side anyway. And then the the chat search, the AI search is going to be a supplemental thing that happens as in regards to the efforts that they do in the chatbot space as users become more and more comfortable using the tools. Last week we talked about the Open Robots.txt study, and then at the same time, Ahrefs published a blog post about Robots.txt. You see, these two are competitors, so it makes sense. They're talking about like studies and like information, etc. But this is the response to Ahrefs study. You can see theirs right here if you want to check it out. But in short, there's just a difference in numbers and difference in methodologies and stuff. Why for us is that important is because this is also how SEO tests are kind of handled, right? If, I don't agree with that, and they'll come up with 1,000 ways of why it's not the same, or find gaps in your analysis, etc. Personally, I think the way that these guys have handled it is actually very professional compared to most, which say, "Oh, that's crap," and they just did that because we released this, and etc. But they're actually open-minded and saying, "Hey, these are some of the things that we see, our methodology versus their methodology, and why the numbers are different, and why we think ours is better." That's a good approach to handling that argument. I use air quotes there, than kind of being a douchebag about, "Oh, this is my idea and and you guys suck." So this is a good example of that. And really, at the end of the day, it's like who's getting blocked more is essentially what their whole premise of this argument is about. And Ahrefs says Majestic is getting blocked more, but the data is suggesting that it's kind of similar. But for sure, both of them agree that SEMrush sucks. It's kind of how I read this whole study. So check it out if that interests you at all. All right, let's get into questions. Getting 50K impressions, but less than 150K clicks a month. This is actually very, very typical. The downside of this whole question is that they don't tell us the most important thing in here, and that's average position. They left it out. So if I'm getting 42,000 impressions and 18 clicks on a URL, for example, and I'm just going to say URL, what I want to know is what is the average impressions and the number of queries that URL is getting. And then when I see the number of queries, I can see the impressions, right? And I can find the highest one, and then I check out average position. Now, if it's like number one, and then I'm rating number one, and my average impressions are 42,000, and I'm only getting 18 clicks. Clearly, there's something going on in the search results that is preventing me from getting clicks. But if I am number 50 and I'm getting 42,000 impressions and only 18 clicks, it's because I didn't rank high enough. So asking your questions and getting actionable advice, you have to provide all the information. And this guy here and myself, we that's how we answered it. And if you are asking your SEO questions like this and you're getting vague answers, that's why, because you're not providing all the information, or you're getting 1,000 different ideas of what it could be. Again, you're not providing enough information to help get a pinpoint thing. And you got to be careful, honestly, about doing that, because if you provide too much information, there's inevitably going to be some douchebag that tries to hit your website and hurt you. But in this regard, if what you really need to look at is average positions, and I gave you the two things about it that it already could be. One, search results change a lot, and you're ranking high enough, but there's something else there that's removing your clicks. Or two, you're getting impressions, but you're not ranking high enough. So here you go. not getting enough clicks. The standard here is actually, I think today is probably pretty legit, especially with the suggestion that this is a local play, just by the idea of what they're giving in regards to their keyword examples. If that's a local play, that is probably going to be, I'm not ranking high enough, but I'm being shown for a lot of queries that are local related that have a lot of impressions, but I'm not high enough to get clicks. That's honestly what that's probably meaning. So and close that. Breadcrumb schema. This is one thing I didn't cover in my blog post. You can see it right here again. I didn't cover is actually the order and the importance of that order. If we look at here, it's Google uses markup to categorize information of the web page in search results, right? So, and then if you dig a little bit deeper into it, it's kind of the hierarchy of the page. So this brand has electronics. Of those electronics, it includes laptops, and of those laptops specifically, we have gaming laptops. Versus doing it backwards, gaming laptops that are electronics that are part of this brand, right? So this way makes way more sense in understanding what this page or this website is about, or this breadcrumb hierarchy. So if you're providing search results, if this way, position one, this or correct implementation versus this implementation, this way tells a way better story than this one about what that specific page is about versus this. So yeah, you want to keep in mind the hierarchy of your website. So this brand has electronics. That those electronics include laptops, and specifically we have these gaming laptops. This brand does roofing. Specifically, we do roof replacement, and then we do that with metal roofing. Right? That's another example of how you could do that. So make sure your implementation and your hierarchy, the story that you're telling in your breadcrumbs, makes sense. Link building and online casino niche. This guy is a junior SEO specialist looking for experience. So I'm going to tell you this. I learned SEO the hard way. I did it in Black Hat forums, adult gambling, etc. And in there, you learn a lot of Black Hat methods, because if you're in these niches, you have to know them. If you're doing what this guy's trying to do the right way, air quotes, doing forum linking, guest posting, blah blah blah, 80% of their competitors didn't do that because that stuff doesn't work in those niches. Those guys are dealing in multi-billion-dollar industries, and they're turning on all the stops: PBNs, buying links, tools, spam to the high heavens. That's casino online, or adult, and etc. That's how you have to succeed in there. If you're a junior SEO trying to learn, they're not a bad niche to learn, but don't expect that you can go in there and go, I want to learn the right way to do SEO, because you are going to learn essentially a method that works very well in any market, but some markets are more sensitive to that level of spam. Or more importantly, you don't even have to do what you got to do for an online casino or a payday loans or an adult site is not anything nearly what you got to do to local. Once you can do online, once you can do adult, the rest of it's easy, right? So it's not bad to learn this way, but you got to get it out of your head. You got to get it off of SEO Roundtable and the Search Engine Journal and Lillyway's Xfeed, and just do and learn and understand backlinks and anchor text and scale of backlinks and finding as many backlinks as possible and reciprocal linking and all of that stuff. especially if you're going to play around with these in these markets, because the right way is black hat in online casino niche. And again, go check this post out. It's on my blog, and the types of templates that you want, put it in the comments right there. And if you want to see how this one's built out, you can check out the web page schema that I got going on right now, right? And then you can also check out the Breadcrumb schema. And this one is just from SEO Press Pro. This is the basics, like SEO Press Pro is doing it because I don't want to have to maintain my Breadcrumb schema manually on my websites right now. Maybe in the future I'll do a manual thing, but for right now, SEO Press Pro handles those just fine enough for me. I'm happy with it. It's okay. All right. But we can do better. We can build these out a whole lot more, and more can be done with them. So leave a comments down here what kind of example you would want to see, and then I'll get those added to that page and let everyone know that it's done in one of these videos. And with that, that's been SEO this week. Short, simple, to the point. AI mode is here. Go check it out. Use it to do your keyword research, and you can essentially build entire outlines for pages that you want to create, and you can create good content. Potentially get into that AI overviews list, especially if freshness is important at the time for those particular things. And I think it's a good opportunity. And if you're doing ecom, Google Merchant Center, get in it. Fill out your Merchant Center feed with as much information as possible, high quality photography, et cetera, because AI overviews, AI mode, and are going to be dominated by e-commerce. There's going to be a great opportunity for e-commerce in those features. And on top of that, Copilot is partnering up, and they're going to start showing e-commerce stuff inside of Copilot straight out of Shopify. So, and probably more opportunities once they get that all locked down. And my guess is that it'll be something like a Google Merchant Center feed, but just a Bing version. So, or they leverage the Google Merchant Center feed at the same time. Could be possibility too. So check it out, get into it, and I'll see you next week.